There's an old saying that offense brings crowds and defense wins championships. So far in the 2021 season for the Pitt Panthers, they have decided to win championships with offense by averaging over 50 points per game and entering into a bye week before the toughest stretch of their schedule. Will this rampage continue against good competition? We'll discuss that and more on this week's Hail to Pitt podcast.
What was your message about finishing it in these final 30 minutes?
Well, it happened in West Virginia where we knocked off number 2. It happened in South Carolina, and it's happening in Pittsburgh today.
Our guys had a lot of guts tonight. We're just going to keep getting better. I mean, that's what it is.
One hell of a game that you will never, ever forget. We shocked the world! Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt. This is the week of October 9th, 2021, and this is the Hail to Pitt podcast. I'm Alan.
And I'm Vince.
For a slick, modern feel on the game of football, look no further than the Pitt Panthers. A stylish passing game is accentuated by their Heisman hopeful quarterback's amazing head of hair. This team isn't just luxury on the offensive side either. Watch in amazement as their highly rated defensive line continues to deliver 5-star performances against even conference opponents. Sorry, Vince, I've been watching a lot of hotel reviews for Rome, Italy for an upcoming vacation, and I don't know, I just got into it thinking about the Pitt Panthers in the same way. So elegant, so beautiful.
Yeah, it is quite remarkable. I mean, you think about where this team was, a few short years ago. Yeah, they won the ACC Coastal Division, but they ran it. They won by basically running one play and just running straight ahead. That conference championship game against Clemson, Kenny Pickett could barely muster any passing yards in that game. Now this looks like an unstoppable force. We got to discuss some of the competition they're playing, but my goodness, Alan, just up and down the field, nobody can seem to run with these guys.
Yeah, and I think you and I are probably going to get into some hyperbole and get really excited and talk a lot about them because, well, why not? We're not used to rooting for a team that averages 50 points, more than 50 points a game. I mean, this is I feel like a once in a lifetime, or at least a new room with a new view for fans of the Pitt Panthers. I'm enjoying this while it lasts, and I'm going to put on those bias goggles because I believe now in the Pitt offense. Even though the competition, like you said, hasn't been amazing, I just feel like the competition in the ACC is so even. I think we already have a glimpse of what Pitt's in for. It's just going to depend on what they see that given day, if anyone's going to keep them under even 30. So I feel good coming out of that Georgia Tech game that we're seeing a Pitt offense that is one maybe for the ages. I don't know if I'll go that far, but I'm about ready to do it already.
Yeah. I mean, 2016, Matt Canada had this offense, really humming, but Alan, that may have been just a gimmick offense. This is legitimate passing we are seeing here.
Yes.
No frills, nothing really fancy or special about it. They're just lining up and daring you to stop them.
This is really impressive what we've seen so far. But again, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because we have this Georgia Tech game tape to break down. And of course, it was one ACC game. Pitt also has the blemish on the record. So there's plenty to be skeptical about. But as a Pitt fan, your team now in the middle of the season, starting ACC play, but for all intents and purposes, about the middle of the season is averaging over 50 points. That's pretty incredible, pretty exciting. Let's talk about it and see if it's legit and what we're going to be in for the rest of the way. It's a bye week, so it's a different type of show, Vince. But as usual, we're going to give everybody the information they need to know to start off if they want to interact with us at H2P Show on Twitter. That's where they do it. And, of course, we are available via email, hail2pittpodcast@gmail.com. And we are on Panther Lair. We're on Reddit. We're talking Pitt football everywhere. It's cool to talk Pitt football on the internet. and we see what you're saying. We interact with you, and we feel you, and we appreciate you listening to the show each and every week. We're getting great feedback, and we're going to keep doing the show for you because you're enjoying it. We enjoy doing it, especially with how easy the show is to put together, Vince, because of Pretty Easy Podcasts. And anybody can get a show done like we do at prettyeasypodcast.com. Hey, it might not be the best podcast idea. You might not be totally confident in your podcast idea, but you want to do one. You'll have someone in your corner helping you out every step of the way, just like we have at prettyeasypodcast.com. Radio professionals helping podcasters podcast. That's what they're all about, making it easy on you. It's all at prettyeasypodcast.com. And again, Vince, every week we start the show, you can say, I can't believe how damn easy it is to get this thing going every week. You just pop on and they do the rest.
Yep. You get your own personal producer. They take care of all that work for you. All you got to do is just worry about the content. Now, I'll tell you, Alan, they really do make podcasting pretty easy.
Now, would you say it was easy for Pitt against Georgia Tech? Because when I'm being asked to do chores during a game and I don't fight back, it's a good game for the Pitt Panthers. I had to haul a bunch of crap out of a barn in the middle of this game, and I really wasn't too upset about it.
Yeah, it seemed pretty easy. I mean, right from the jump, Alan, an interception, Chase Pine leading to a touchdown. Johnny Patrician, that fox guarding the hen house, he gets a pick six. Panthers jumping up on top of him. Georgia Tech gets a score. Pitt comes right back and then just was not looking back at him, off to the races, putting up, 40 in the first half and then just cruising in the second half. Really, if they wanted to, probably could have piled on a little bit more in that second half, even taking a knee down on the goal line at the end of the game. Just so impressive for this offense.
For a moment, I'll admit, the end of the first half, during halftime, I thought, are they going to try to put 80 on him? Can they put 80 on him? I think they could put 80 on him, but they did step off the gas a little bit in the second half, I think. But this game was enjoyable for a litany of reasons. First and foremost, it was I would say the coming out party for Kenny Pickett, at least in the eyes of people who follow the ACC closely. I think you will now see people who have incentive to boost the ACC as a conference, like the people on the ACC network, for instance. They're going to sing the praises of Kenny Pickett on a national scale, and he is now being talked about as one of those kind of quarterbacks countrywide, Vince. Obviously in family circles, saw text messages with the word Heisman in them. I don't think it's going that crazy outside of, Ginzers and big Pitt fans, but it's not far off.
Yeah. And, I was watching a lot of national stuff, and certainly on the ACC network, everybody's talking about, Kenny Pickett, but even some national shows I watched, people were taking notice. I even watched some betting folk, and they were saying, you know what, you might want to sprinkle a little bit on Kenny Pickett at a 60-1 possibility to win that Heisman Trophy. Who knows? Georgia Tech coming into this game, they held Clemson to 14 points in a close loss. They beat North Carolina and really frazzled Sam Howell, former Heisman Trophy candidate, sacked him 8 times in that game. And so they were really riding high, and Kenny Pickett comes in there and just slicing them up like a side of fries. I mean, just unbelievable the way he was looking, just hitting people all over the field. Just so impressive, some of the throws that he was making, putting up big numbers. And you're right, Alan, people are going to start to take notice, especially with they got some big games coming up, and I think that's really going to decide it. But, he's starting to get on the radar of some people.
Hell yes. And it's awesome, too, because you see him out there, and he is a guy who is enjoying the fact that he made the decision to stay in a unique year. I mean, I am so glad Kenny Pickett did it for himself, not even for the Pitt team and, the potential damage they could do in the ACC. But Kenny Pickett is in a rare situation to be this kind of super senior with a chance to really up his value for NFL prospects and getting drafted, totally taking advantage of it. Surrounded by a bunch of players, other guys like Tazier Mack, for instance, just who have been around with respects to how college football works in eternity, which is rare. You rarely get a chance to do something like that. So Pickett made the right choice, I think. Already you could see it, but you also already could tell he is facing players on defense that are 18, 19, and he looks like he is years ahead of those kind of players in terms of the mental aspects of the game, the confidence, and just knowing what to do with the ball in his hands. So Pitt has a huge advantage, I think, the rest of the way that I don't even think some of us as Pitt fans really gave enough credence to. Maybe the offensive line isn't the greatest run blocking unit, but they could pass protect enough for a guy like Kenny Pickett, maybe more than enough we're seeing. And I'm just feeling all kinds of confidence and love for the big man on campus, Vince. I mean, he is, dare I say, now my favorite Pitt quarterback in my lifetime, surpassing Tyler Palko. And that's saying a lot.
Yeah, it is. You really think it's just that he's older? Is that what you think? I there's no doubt about it that I think as much heat as we've given Coach Whipple, he has done an excellent job developing these quarterbacks, and he's got to be given some credit. But I'm looking at the personnel around this team, Alan, and you talked about the offensive line, and I do want to get to that in a little bit, but I want to talk about these receivers and tight ends. I mean, how many times last year were we saying, oh, if the guy would have just caught the ball, how much different, this offense would have been. And I think you gotta give a lot of credit to Coach Brennan Marion, wide receiver coach, coming in here. And I don't know if it's him or what it is, but these receivers, these tight ends are not dropping nearly as many passes as they were, in recent years. Yeah, they had a couple drops. They've had a couple drops this year, but my goodness, I mean, they are making the catches when they need to, and it's just night and day from what it was last year.
Especially the tight ends. I mean, this is incredible to watch. That to not really have that issue for the offense. Also, that's one of the big differences. You're right. I think we should look at probably what Kenny Pickett's done in the off season outside of football. Just he's podcasting. He's doing a lot of media, radio shows. He's really owning the leadership role in the public eye and doing all these things that are, extra. They're unnecessary, but he's doing charity work in addition to NIL stuff. He is, I think, a total package, and also a guy who's just mentally prepared for the position he's in. If Kenny Pickett was at another university of a higher caliber, I'll say, than Pitt playing football, if he was recruited and starting at Notre Dame, he would be the most talked about player, I think, in the country at this point with how, he's handled himself. He's got it all. And now to see where his draft stock goes is the next most interesting thing to me. I've never really been too invested in seeing where a Pitt guy goes in an NFL draft unless they're going to the Steelers. Steelers have a chance to maybe get Kenny Pickett, who knows? But I cannot wait to see what happens with Pickett because the arguments already are, he's no NFL quarterback. A lot of people will still tell you that. But, I mean, if you're watching Pitt every week, he looks like he'd fit the mold for what an NFL quarterback is now.
Yeah, I would certainly say so. He's making tough throws. I'm not saying this guy is, he doesn't have a true rocket on his arm like a Justin Herbert. But, he's got mobility. He's shown the ability to hit open guys, make some progressions, and make tough throws. I don't see how this guy right now, I would say certainly at least a day 2 pick, a second or third round pick, which is saying a lot because last year it was borderline whether this kid would even get drafted, and now look at this rise that he's had, and it could go even higher, Alan. We talked about he's got big games coming up. There's going to be some big games, some national television games that people are going to be getting, and they got to come out and win those games. And Kenny Pickett's got to look impressive. And if Pitt's going to win those games, Kenny Pickett's going to have to look impressive and lead them to a victory. And I think he can do it.
Yeah, they're coming up big time. Virginia Tech, Clemson. These are the moments that are going to make it in terms of his draft stock, but also as a team, Pitt in that coastal hunt, looking, like they've been talked about. They're looking like a team that, should be favored in most of these games. And I also want to point out that we called it Jordan Addison leading the country in touchdowns. We said that beginning of the year. No surprise there.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah, we saw that coming. What I did not see coming, and I still can't believe what I saw this week, Vince. And you put it on the rundown, even confirming that I wasn't delusional when I was looking at ACC websites and social media. Gabe Hoy, the lineman of the week.
Yeah, Alan, I think you owe him an apology for that.
I do. Maybe not for as much as what I've said about him on this show. I mean, I've said some things about Gabe Hoy not being an ideal fit on this line, at least for my eye test. But off the show, too, I've said, I probably things that would really be embarrassing if it came out and anyone heard them but you. So I do apologize to Gabe Hoy for everything I said after this week. Looking all right against Georgia Tech.
Yeah, him and that whole offensive line just played outstanding. As far as pass blocking goes, I thought last year they were pretty good. This year they are playing great. That we talked about at Georgia Tech, 8 sacks the previous week. They didn't really get close to Pickett at all this past week. And you're using multiple guys in this lineup. Matt Goncalves got in there. I've been calling out for this guy, and I thought whenever he was in at that right tackle spot, making a huge difference in the running game. I thought that, he just moving people out of the way. Pitt ran the ball pretty effectively, probably their best running output so far this year. Israel Bonaconda, 60 yards rushing. Vincent Davis, 50 yards rushing. Rodney Hammond, 48 yards, getting it done with all 3 different guys. And it was a big difference in the second half. They did gouge him a little bit in the first half, but that second half really made it so Pitt didn't have to do a whole lot, be able to, get some longer drives in there, running the football effectively. And we talked about it last week. There are going to be games, Alan, where that passing game may not be clicking. I mean, each week I'm getting a little bit more and more confident that maybe that won't happen. But there could be a game where they're going to have to rely on the running backs to get some tough yards. And they showed this week, I think, that they're very capable of that.
Yeah, and I mean, they pointed out also during the broadcast that I think we should pay attention to as well. Abanaconda is our darling going into this season. Obviously, we want to see him succeed, but Rodney Hammond getting the reps that he's getting now, especially from a coach like Pat Narduzzi, who we've said it's tough to get. I think it's tough to get snaps in Narduzzi's defense. It used to be, now everybody is, but they're all veterans. But for a running back like him who came in onto campus in June, to get 6 carries in the first ACC game. I mean, he was third in touches, but at running back, but making the most out of him, averaging 8 yards a carry. To see where he goes moving forward the rest of the season is going to be really interesting and possibly exciting, because maybe Pitt is going to have some 100-yard rushers coming up here pretty soon. Considering, Vince, the progression they've each made and the team has made also in the run game, I don't think these running backs are incapable of it. It's mostly an offensive line issue, I would say, especially looking at a guy like Rodney Hammond. That guy is freaking jacked and ready to attack defenses. He looks like he's playing defense running the ball, looking for someone to smash.
He is. I mean, he is. He's a powerful runner, for sure. And whenever I see that, I mean, you're seeing this freshman come out here and do that. I get pretty excited about it because if you look at this roster and you say, what's this team gonna be like? Next year. You hate to talk about next year already, but you say, okay, well, Kenny Pickett, he's going to be off to the NFL draft. Nick Patty, I've from what I've seen, I'm pretty confident that he's going to come in next year and do a good job. But what we're seeing, I think, is we're going to have a good stable running backs that's going to be able to maybe lean on them earlier in the season next year. So I think that's very exciting. We've been critical of the run blocking. We've been critical of the play calling for some of these runs, Alan, running out of the shotgun a little bit too much for your liking. But I think we've seen, if the offensive line is doing their job, if we're getting enough good blocking there, then that running out of the shotgun can be effective. And I think we've seen some of that.
Yeah, I mean, it is college football too, so that's more acceptable. Running out of the shotgun in the pros, though, is really upsetting me. But that's a whole nother topic for another show that we don't even do and I don't even want to do right now. But let's talk about the Pitt defense now some and get into the game they had, given up 21 to Georgia Tech. But, they gave up a lot of yards, but they made the big plays. And that, I mean, I'm almost ready to forget that Patrician went to Penn State at all with all the splash plays he's making this year. Again, though, I did notice. I mean, because of all those yards, you know why those happen. All the yards that Pitt will give up. What is it? Over 400 in this game.
Yep.
It's the missed tackles. Lots of missed tackles. Most of them in the secondary. But also, defensive linemen not even wrapping up sometimes, and that gets frustrating. And against a team like Georgia Tech, maybe you could get away with it. I'm surprised Pitt got away with it as much as they actually did in this game. But coming up in these next few games, even a crappy Clemson offense for them this year, that's not going to fly.
Yeah, Alan, I don't know if you noticed this, but I saw a lot of guys slipping on that Georgia Tech turf down there. So I don't know if that had something to do with some of the missed tackles that we had. I mean, overall, it is a little concerning. Georgia Tech's got, that running back that they had and certainly Sims, the quarterback. I mean, they're good runners. We got to give them some credit for that. But yeah, the tackling definitely needs to improve. Hopefully on the, the beautiful grass of Blacksburg and Heinz Field, we'll be able to, regain our footing a little bit and be able to wrap up. I hope.
I'm not going to hold my breath, but I hope to.
But the splash plays, the big situational plays. I mean, this is college football. 2021, you're going to give up yards. I mean, outside of, a Georgia, how many defenses out there are really putting clamps down on teams? There aren't too many. And whenever you're scoring as many points as Pitt is, that's okay. Because Pitt is making the big splash plays, the sacks, the turnovers. The biggest thing that I'm taking away from this defense, Alan, is third down performance, red zone performance. Georgia Tech on third and fourth down, 3 for 15 in this game. In the red zone, only 2 for 4. That means that they're getting off the field on those money downs, something that has plagued this team the past several years. I mean, whether it is, deep balls down the sideline, a receiver on a slant route running wide open in the middle of the field, those kind of things that killed us in that Western Michigan game. That stuff was mostly corrected in this game in terms of big plays. And in contrast, Pitt, third and fourth down, 8 for 15. That's over 50% they're getting a first down in those situations. In the red zone, 5 for 5. making sure when they get in there, they're getting the points, not settling for field goals. That's big time stuff right there. That's winning football.
Oh man, and watching some of these players this year on defense, they are just getting started. I feel like seeing a guy like Haba Baldonado, what he's done so far this season, and he hasn't even stepped into that major loud. I mean, Tennessee a little bit, but I'm talking about ACC conference play. When we see Haba Baldonado out there, like the pressure he's going to get, I just can't wait for the splash plays when his big Italian arms get up in the air and bat a ball for someone to pick. Keyshawn Camp is back. Keyshawn Camp is getting pressure like he was pre-injury. Cansey stepping it up even further after last year. So we're not seeing anybody skip a beat. We're seeing everybody, I feel, live up to their expectations defensively. Obviously, the secondary is coming up too. I mean, the secondary, they're making plays. They need to shore up the tackling. They need to, eliminate some splash plays. I mean, when we see Pitt line up there against some of these, NFL caliber wide receivers, it's going to be interesting to see how Narduzzi schemes it. Is he just going to go out there, all machoed out and just saying, I'm going to do what I always do and really put his guys up against that kind of talent, or will they scheme to stop guys like that? Because Clemson will have guys like that. Pitt is going to be facing guys like that. Even of course, with UNC, but even with players Miami's going to throw at you offensively, they could beat you deep. So this secondary has improvements to make, but they look fine. They look good. They look like they are ACC Coastal Championship ready. And that's why, Pitt is, even with the blemish to Western Michigan, worst day of all of our lives. Not really, but a terrible day. It's already 3 weeks later, not looking so bad because Pitt's looking fine in the ACC, but also Western Michigan looks like they're going to win the MAC.
Yeah, hopefully that was a wake-up call for this defense. They went, and this coaching staff, that quarterback, Elby, for Western Michigan, he looks really good. Against Pitt, he played the game of his life. He was extremely accurate on all those throws, and that is the kind of quarterback that this scheme and Pitt has really struggled with over the past several years. Whenever they play these quarterbacks that are more runners and not as accurate, Pitt has done very well against those kind of players. But against a guy like that can really squeeze the ball into some tight spots and hit his man, that's where they start to struggle. And they're going to be going up against some good quarterbacks coming up, and they got to be willing maybe to adjust a little bit more or do something different, or they're really going to have to step up their game. They got to do something in order to stop those guys. They can't just always rely on this offense to score 50 points a game.
Yeah, and Pitt's defense is going to be seeing they're going to be game planning for some players. I'm interested to see how they do that for not even just the quarterbacks they see, but like the receivers. Pitt matching up against because of that game last year, what Zay Flowers did to them, what everyone who played for NC State did for them.
Yep.
I want to see how Pitt plays guys like Josh Downs at UNC. Or even that Jake Bobo, great name at Duke. I mean, they have players that they're going to have to, really prepare for moving forward. Rambo from Miami, who's I think picking his game up a little bit. They are going to be getting into some ACC matchups where they are going to be playing guys that are going to have the ability to really do damage against a team that makes the mistakes the Pitt defense has made so far this year. Tavian Robinson from Virginia Tech is the next one to keep an eye out on. But for now, I think if you're a Pitt fan and if you're a odds maker, which they're saying Pitt looks good in the ACC, Vince, what we saw against Georgia Tech confirmed a lot about some things, but I think also illuminated some people on just how damn good the offense is, first and foremost, how explosive, just cold-blooded and prepared Kenny Pickett is, and then defensively, just how dangerous Pitt's defense is, because at any moment they could just change it. You might have a big 35-yard play on Pitt. The next play, this defense is very capable to get a strip sack, batted ball interception, and that's been happening. And that continuing to happen throughout ACC play means Pitt will be not only in line to maybe win the Coastal, but maybe the whole damn conference. Wouldn't that be something?
It would be something, and I think it's nice to have the team get a bye week, heal up a little bit. But man, I wish they were playing this Saturday. I can't wait to break down that Virginia Tech game next week. That is going to be a monster showdown there. The winner going to be in the catbird seat for the ACC Coastal Championship. I'm going to be watching that Virginia Tech Notre Dame game this Saturday night very closely, scouting them. Cannot wait for that one. This is a big time stuff next week, Alan. A very meaningful game in October. We don't always get those.
Yeah, and I'm going to be rooting hard for Virginia Tech against Notre Dame. Not only because it's Notre Dame, but because they screwed me last week betting on them. But also, I don't know though. I feel like I'm happy. I'm very happy it's a bye this week. But I feel like I wish the Clemson game was the first game out of the bye instead of the Virginia Tech game. What about you? It's really a toss-up because playing in Blacksburg is going to be the most difficult. Kenny Pickett's even said it's the most difficult place he's ever played in terms of atmosphere. But I don't know. Pitt coming out of a bye against Clemson, this kind of Clemson team, oh, man, I would be licking my chops. But we'll see if they win in Blacksburg, too.
Yeah, and Clemson, they're a wounded animal right now. They've been squeaking by on some wins. They got a lot of injuries though. Some players transferring out. There's something amiss there. I definitely don't want to have them get some time to regroup. But the schedule is what it is. We got to go out there next week, take care of business. That's a huge game. That's bigger than the Clemson game right now, Alan, because it's the next one.
Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. And it's my last game watching Pitt play from an American television for me until the Syracuse game. So I'm going to be watching the rest all season long at I don't know what time our games are out. Big noon kickoffs are 8 p.m. in Italy, aren't they? So every game's going to be prime time for me the rest of the season.
Well, you could probably go to Haba's family over there and watch with them.
Oh, yeah.
How about that?
I might slide up in his DMs and see if he needs any Pitt people to hang out with his family to watch him kick ass the rest of the way. But man, what a fun player to watch! What a fun time to be alive as a Pitt fan. And who would have thought that just a few weeks ago? But here we are. Because and it's not false. It's real. It's what you see on the coverage of college football. Pitt is in kind of a driver's seat in the ACC. And then online, people are starting to believe again as on the Pitt side. And then elsewhere, people are recognizing. And you just go to the Pitternet and check it out.
Can you explain what internet is?
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
And to all those faceless keyboard warriors on Twitter.
But we're a good darn football team. I'm proud of these guys.
First up, Vince, we'll look at Uptown Privileges on Panther Lair, who said Pitt's coaches and players just need to have that lunchbox mentality that every game is a chance to prove Ron Cook wrong. Focus and beat the team they play that day. I don't think the coaches and players are thinking about Ron Cook when they go play every Saturday. But I know a lot of fans will, Vince, like Uptown Privileges. Whatever gets Uptown Privileges up for a game, though, I want him or her to be motivated by their need to prove a guy like Ron Cook wrong. I mean, I don't know who listens to Ron Cook anymore, but if you are and he's firing you up, to each his own. Whatever gets you motivated.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to take a page out of Bobby Boucher's book, and you got to just visualize and attack. visualize an attack. And if you maybe Pitt would tackle better if they were just visualizing Ron Cook there.
Yeah, maybe Narduzzi should just put pictures of Ron Cook out there on everyone's locker, on the whole defensive line's locker, and on all the special or the secondaries lockers. Get them really upset when they get back from practice, and they just get mad. And they're always just angry before the game. Run out through, and you know how they run through the paper. Run through just a bit. Everybody just run through a big portrait of Ron Cook.
Probably scare a lot of people away, but you don't want to. You gotta. The teams they're going to be going up against are good enough to beat them if they don't bring their A game. There's no doubt about that. They got to show up, take it one game at a time. All those cliches, very important.
We've said, respect your opponent. Respect the opponent, most importantly.
And the thing is, if you don't want, we talk a lot about how this local media doesn't, respect Pitt at all and looks for every chance they can to say something bad about them. Well, don't give them anything bad to say. Go out there and beat all these teams that you're supposed to beat, even beat some that you're not supposed to beat, and look good doing it. And there's nothing they're going to be able to say.
And if you're a Pitt fan who maybe isn't into the local scene as much, maybe you're a Pitt fan, you're not even in Pittsburgh. Ron Cook is, let me just say, he's no Beano Cook. And I'll leave it at that. Next up here on the Pitternet, Vince, this comes from PFF, Pro Football Focus, which, I mean, they have all sorts of marks here that you put in here for me to read off. Top 3 among Power 5 offenses in explosive play rate and yards per attempt with Kenny Pickett. They are 112th in the strength of schedule, and then jump to 42nd when looking at the remaining schedule. They have a great passing grade. All these good notches in their belt from the PFF perspective. But my favorite PFF stat that actually didn't make it in here is I'm looking at the odds and the likelihood to win, to get to a bowl game and to win overall. Pitt has the best chance of any team in the ACC, according to PFF, to win the ACC right now. Better than Clemson, better than Wake Forest.
Yeah, that's impressive. PFF, they have a top 25 ranking, and I don't know if people vote on this or they use computers or what they do, but they got Pitt ranked in the top 25, something those other major polls do not. And I think it kind of shows that, Pitt has, with any team that isn't ranked coming into the season, you're going to have a disadvantage. You got to climb that ladder, and any loss that you have, especially to a MAC school, a school of that caliber, is going to really knock you down a whole hell of a lot. But, Pitt, if they keep winning and if they keep, beating teams impressively the way they've done, they'll get the respect that they deserve. There's no doubt about that.
Right now, Pitt has a 27% chance to win the ACC, according to PFF, and an 8% chance to get to the college football playoff. Hey, I'll take that. 8%. That's not 0%.
Wow. Well, if you think whenever the season started, Clemson, I think, had a 99.5% chance of winning the ACC, and then the rest of the teams collectively, I think, was a 0.5% chance. So they made up a lot of ground in that standpoint.
And you know what? All that means nothing when you're talking about we're right now in October. So obviously we don't want to get ahead of it, but as a Pitt fan, it's just fun to see stuff like that, especially 3 weeks after what was a devastating loss. We have anything else here on the Pitternet we should check out? I saw some other things on Reddit who people now are comparing Kenny Pickett to Dan Marino, and they're getting into that argument. I don't want to get into that just yet. He passed him this week, but I mean, there's a lot
one of those weird records.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like most touchdown passes in a 3 consecutive game span. Like who made that up? Like who was keeping track of that?
People who look closely at the stats and the numbers. You got to follow the numbers, but also you just got to follow the trends. And right now, the trend in Pittsburgh is that the Pitt Panther football team is seemingly the best thing going right now for the city of Pittsburgh. I mean, unless you're looking at people like Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, I would still say he's the best thing we got going sports-wise, Vince. But Pitt's getting close, and people are taking notice all around town.
They really are. I'm out on the factory floor. I'm hearing people talking about them. I'm hearing people up in the office, saying, this team might be actually pretty good. Do you see how many points they scored this week? People love that.
Another Saturday coming, and the Panthers are playing. Time to find out what the Panthers are saying.
You think this Pitt team's the only good team in town?
Yeah, the Steelers, they got to get rid of Ben, get rid of Tomlin.
The Pens, they got no Malkin or Crosby neither.
Yeah, and the Buccos, they ain't ever going to be good with Bob Nutting.
Hell no. And then you got Jeff Capel. Who knows when they'll ever be good again.
Yeah, but that volleyball team, they're really good. They're ranked number 2 or something. I don't know.
Hail to Pitt.
What the Panthers are saying.
So that's what the Inzers are saying. We could be in for some dark times in the city of Pittsburgh right now, sports-wise. But it seems like the Pitt Panthers and the BMOC, Kenny Pickett, are just this beacon of light, right? Shining from the Cathedral of Learning. It's pretty exciting. Hopefully we could keep it going, keep it moving through this bye week. It's good to be on a bye week, maybe, Alan. There's a lot of big games around the country I want to talk to you about.
Oh, college football. Big games. You got a Red River rivalry. We've got those Hogs against Matt Corral. It's the Vince Bowl. We've got some big ones that we're going to talk about right now.
Yeah. At a big noon kickoff, Alan, Texas State Fair, Cotton Bowl, number 6 Sooners, 3-point favorite against the number 21 Longhorns. Oklahoma is just, somehow they're undefeated, but they're just sputtering all over the place. Texas seems to have rebounded from that loss at Arkansas. Alan, I'm a little bit surprised Oklahoma's a favorite in this game with the way Texas is playing. I guess I got to go with the Longhorns. I really don't have that much respect for Oklahoma, but they are favored for some reason.
Yeah, they have the offense, and this is what they do. I feel like we've seen Oklahoma slow out the gates in recent memory, and then they play Texas, kick their ass, and then they go back to where they belong in the Big 12. And that's kind of what I expect. I mean, I see the line for this is 3.5. I got Oklahoma by well over that touchdown victory. This is also, you don't forget, this is Sark's first foray into this rivalry. That's not going to be easy for him. So I'm looking at the trends, and I just see Spencer Rattler just getting better and increasing those numbers and still a chance at stepping into the Heisman conversation.
I at this point I'd be a little surprised if that happens, but I could see Oklahoma winning this game. They do have a pretty stout run defense. Texas, pretty inconsistent throwing the ball. They're going to try to run it with Bijan Robinson. So that maybe plays into the Sooners' hands. So I could definitely see what you're saying, and Oklahoma coming out with a win.
Let me say this, though. There are 10 defenses in the Big 12, and I would put both of these defenses in the bottom half of the conference, and they're Texas and Oklahoma. So they're going to be points scored in this game. Oklahoma's run defense, a little bit better.
You think?
But I don't think it's going to matter. I think we're going to see a lot of points scored in this one.
I actually already have a bet in on the under in this game, 63.5 the total. I just see Texas really trying to run the ball, slow the game down, and Oklahoma good at stopping the run. And I got to see the Rat Man really put up a big game before I'm a believer.
Well, there you go. That's the big noon on ABC, but not the real big noon. The real big noon. Are we even get? Whoa. This is the real big noon.
Yeah, number 13, Arkansas Razorbacks, 6.5 point dog in the Grove. At number 17, Ole Miss. Allen, some interesting line movement in this game I want to talk to you about. This game opened at 5, okay, and groups came in and they gave the 5, they gave 5.5, 6, 6.5. It got up to 7, Allen, and then another group came in and took the 7, and now we're back down at 6.5 at the West. That's a line from the Westgate Superbook in Las Vegas. So just under a touchdown here. The Rebels favored. It's tough to bet against. I know they got blasted last week. Both these teams did, really. It's tough to bet against Sam Pittman as an underdog, but I think Arkansas may be just too banged up for this game.
Yeah, Arkansas is banged up, and, Ole Miss against teams that aren't Alabama. I'll give them a shot all the time with the offense that they put out there. So
yeah.
Scoring, over 40 against Arkansas, totally doable. This isn't a team that's learning who they are, like when Arkansas got to face Texas. This is a team that knows exactly who they are, and they knew they weren't good enough to beat Alabama. They weren't going to come close, but they're good enough to beat Arkansas. They probably will beat Arkansas, but I'm not betting against Sam Pittman. Upset City, Vince. This is my outright underdog winner bet, and I'm making it because why the hell not when you got Sam Pittman out there ready to pit bull his way through the SEC, make some splashes, get the Hogs back on the map, and I just respect KJ Jefferson. Tough kid.
Yeah.
At quarterback for the Hogs.
He is. Yeah. I do think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game because I don't, as you said last week, Alan, Ole Miss
and
on defense.
Yeah, and KJ Jefferson also is from Mississippi, so this is probably a personal game. Yeah, for him, probably knows a lot of guys on the other side of the field.
Well, and like you said, Ole Miss, their defense last week, their focus is just getting the ball back to the offense as quickly as possible by any means necessary. It doesn't matter if you're giving up a touchdown or what have you. But Matt Corral playing at home, I think, he does very well there at the Grove. I am going to pick the Rebels, Ole Miss, to win this game. But I wouldn't be surprised if Arkansas won. Now, Alan, you covered the SEC West for quite a while. To me, these are two of the best cheers in the whole country. Do you have a favorite here? Woo Pig or Hotty Toddy?
Oh, Woo Pig, Suey, all day for sure. Absolutely. I know some Hotty Toddy people more, but so I probably heard it more, and it annoys me more, and I've made fun of it more. But Suey all the way, Woo Pig, and I covered the SEC, but during my time covering the SEC, this was never an interesting game. Now it is. That's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I cannot wait for this one. This may be the game of the year as far as I'm concerned. I don't know.
Oh yeah, the Vince Bowl. Here it is.
Well, it maybe if by some miraculous thing in like the I don't know, the Fiesta Bowl, we get Ole Miss versus SMU. That'll be the game of the year. Hopefully that happens.
Yeah. Or Kenny Pickett versus Matt Corral in a big bowl game.
Oh my goodness. That might be a battle to see who's the number 1 overall pick. We'll see.
Yeah.
Number 2, Georgia, laying, it's now up to 15.5 on the road, on the plains at number 18, Auburn. Alan, I'll speak for both of us. We don't care for Auburn. Well,
I don't care for Auburn.
And Georgia, it doesn't seem to matter who their quarterback is, whether it was, Stetson Bennett, Colt Bennett, it doesn't really matter. Their defense is so good that they're just nobody can score on these guys.
No, yeah, I'm more interested in. I mean, this game isn't even really fun to pick. It's obviously George is going to crush him, but I don't know if Bo Nix is going to get Auburn's offense to score more than 10 points in this game.
Yeah, I was
they are not very good.
looking at that. Alan. Auburn's team total sitting at 15.5 right now. I don't know if in Georgia, I think, has only let up one offensive touchdown all year. I don't know if Auburn's going to be able to score two. Now they are at home. I don't know if you watched that Auburn LSU game last week. Bo Nix was making these Auburn type plays in order to come back and win that game in the fourth quarter. You know, those Auburn type plays where it's just like tons of scrambling around and missed tackles, and all of a sudden somebody's wide open. And they somehow won that game. I'm not quite sure. Maybe that's more of a reflection on LSU. I don't know. But Auburn does not seem like they're going to be able to put up much resistance against the Dogs in this one.
No. And the Dogs are putting out what could end up being a historic defense at the pace that they're going at right now. I mean, they've got tons of guys notching sacks. I mean, and Jordan Davis, not even a sack leader on that team, but a hell of a defensive lineman. I love to watch play football. You got that Adam Anderson, the Dean, the linebackers they have. Like, their defense is ridiculous. It's stupid. It is what I would. When I covered the SEC, what an LSU defense would feel like. Just a great player at nearly every position, definitely at every position group. But Georgia's that team now in the SEC and in the country, the best defense in the country. I give Auburn no chance to win, and I'm taking their team total under the 15.5. Vince.
Yep. I'm going to be doing that as well, I think.
We got one last game here to get to. It is a huge one in the Big Ten. Penn State at Iowa. I mean, this is I don't like Big Ten football, but this is a juicy matchup. Very exciting to see Penn State being dogs on the road against Iowa in this one.
Yeah, a top 5 showdown here. Iowa, a slight favorite. 1.5 is what I'm seeing mostly. This Iowa seems like the luckiest team in the whole country. They are getting turnovers at just a ridiculous rate. I saw a stat that 25% of their offensive possessions start in plus territory. Alan, 25%. I was normally a team that as soon as they cross the 50, they're looking to punt. But somehow, they're getting enough turnovers and they're putting up a ton of points and winning. I mean, I don't think their offense is really anything special. They haven't been as good as maybe what was projected preseason, at least offensively. But their defense is more than making up for it. In Penn State, I mean, their defense is definitely coming to play. There's no doubt about that. Offensively, they got some good receivers, but kind of inconsistent. Otherwise, I really don't know what to do with this game. I kind of think Penn State's going to win it just based on the fact that they're the more aggressive team, and they're willing to take a chance.
Well, that's exactly why I'm picking Iowa, because, like you said, Iowa is an opportunistic team, one of, if not the most in the country. I mean, they give a short field all the time. They've got a quarterback who doesn't turn the ball over. So they are playing great Iowa football right now, and Penn State is more of a boomer bust type team, I think. And they've been booming, but in that atmosphere, I could totally see them busting, and I'm picking them to bust. I like Iowa by that 1.5. Give me it.
Yeah, you might be right there. I mean, this is a really tough game to pick. I don't think I'm going to get involved, but I hate to say it, but it seems like this is going to be an extremely close game, and Penn State's gonna make a big play at the end, and the aggressor is going to be rewarded. I hope I'm wrong, but that's the way it seems like to me. I just don't have too much respect for Iowa. I don't have a whole lot of respect for Penn State either. I guess these teams are undefeated, but does anybody really believe these are two top 5 teams in the whole country?
No, not at all. I will say, I think if you just look at their games leading up to this matchup, what they've done against ranked opponents. Iowa got Indiana when they were ranked. They smashed them. Penn State smashed Indiana last week. But the big impressive one, Iowa's win on the road against rival Iowa State, where they turned them over, took advantage of them on the road, beat a top 10 team. Penn State's big wins over Auburn and Wisconsin, much closer ball games, and a thriller kind of against Auburn.
I was going to say Wisconsin. They squeaked by that game. Probably shouldn't have won it. And Wisconsin's 1-3. So I don't know. I wouldn't really classify that as a quality win.
Exactly. They were a top 25 team at the time. Not anymore. Auburn. How impressive was that win? Really, at the end of it for Penn State. That's what informs me on this game. I also like the conservativeness of Iowa going into this for this particular matchup, knowing that they're willing to make Sean Clifford go out there and beat him, and I don't know if that guy can go out there and win.
Well, those receivers Penn State has are pretty good. So if he can get those guys the ball, I could see them making a big play, and maybe enough play to win the game. So it does concern me there. Is Iowa going to be able to make a big play offensively in order to win this game? What if Clifford does have a nice game where, and by that I mean like he doesn't turn the ball over at all. He's not like Tua's brother at Maryland who threw 6 interceptions last week against Iowa. That was just embarrassing.
Yeah, you have to be smart and kind of conservative against Iowa if you're playing quarterback. Yeah, this is a great matchup. It's going to be a fun, physical game. And if you're into Big Ten football, then you're going to enjoy it. It's a top 5 Big Ten matchup. How often do you get to see one of those, Vince?
Not too often. I guess every once in a while, that it does show up. Ohio State versus somebody. It's an interesting game, certainly for Iowa, because they don't have hardly anything left on the rest of their schedule. If they could get by this game, it could be smooth sailing to an undefeated season. Even if Penn State gets by Iowa this game, they still got to play. Michigan State, Ohio State. They still got a tough road for sure. But also, I would say really a lot on the line for Iowa if they can get through this game unscathed.
And since there's no Pitt game to pick, Vince, let's end it on this then for the college football talk for this week. PFF, you know what they give Iowa's chances of making the college football playoff? A little bit better than Pitt.
What was it, like 10%?
51% chance for the Iowa Hawkeyes to get into the playoffs. This is a huge game for them.
Yeah, I think it seems reasonable. If they could win this game, which is basically a coin flip, and then it's hard to say who they would play in the Big Ten championship game at this point. That could be a coin flip as well. Most likely, it sounds mostly like seems like it'll be Ohio State. I don't know, but say it's them. You got to think Ohio State's still going to be favored in that game. So even 50% still seems like a lot. Maybe they think 2 Big Ten teams are going to get in the playoff. I don't know.
I don't know about that, but I do know that that Iowa's got a great chance if they can get by Penn State. Like you said, this is the big one for them, and then we'll see where they go from there. But this is going to be a great college football atmosphere, and hopefully Fox. It's their big game, right? Is this a big Fox game? Hopefully they get Ashton Kutcher there because he's always good for a big Iowa game.
Oh yeah,
Ashton is what I
bet he'll be there. He may not even know he's there, but he'll be there.
You know how they would really win if instead of getting Colt Bennett, they had Bo Bennett there hyping up all the Iowa fans.
Who do you think Bo Bennett's college team is? Colorado or Colorado State or?
Oh, yeah, I would say probably Colorado State. Maybe Air Force. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, he probably is an Air Force
guy, though.
or do you think he trusts plane? Do you think he? I was gonna say, do you think he trusts airplanes?
No, definitely not. Yeah, he's definitely a Colorado State guy. But there we go. That's this weekend's college football slate that we're paying attention to, and we hope you enjoy the week off, everybody, from the anxiety of a Pitt ACC matchup. But be prepared because the week coming up after this one, it's Virginia Tech week, baby, on the road. Doesn't get any bigger than that on the road in the ACC, if you ask me.
Yeah, but there's going to be a whole hell of a lot at stake in that one. It's a battle for who's going to be in the catbird seat for that ACC Coastal Championship. I think that's the only two teams that haven't lost in the Coastal. No conference losses. Going to be an absolutely huge game. It could be even bigger if Virginia Tech can beat Notre Dame this coming week.
And that's a 7:30 Eastern start time if you want to do some opponent scouting. The Hokies take on the Irish. Of course, we'll be watching that. And, yeah, we'll be back next week. Vince, I can't wait to hype this game up, to scout it, watch that game tape of Notre Dame, Virginia Tech. And I'm surprised you didn't put that on our ledger, but I don't know if I'm not betting on that game. I don't want to bet on the opponent coming up, and I'm definitely not betting on Notre Dame the rest of the year. You told me not to last week. I should have listened.
Yeah, very superstitious not to bet on the opponent you're about to play the following week. I like that.
Never, ever do it. But that's my strategy. You all could follow your own. Just gamble responsibly, as we always say on the show. I don't know if we've ever said that actually on the show, but you should be responsible with it. Or not. It's your money. Do what you want with your money. I say that. It's your money.
Yeah.
Anything left for him, Vince, before we get out of here?
Just congratulations to Kodiak, the sea eagle that escaped from the aviary has been found and returned to the aviary. And by all accounts, from all the bird doctors that are there, he's in excellent shape, and hopefully will be returned to paying customer viewing sometime soon.
And I can't wait for the Disney Channel feature film of the year coming out next year on the story. Cody the Big Bad Bird does Pittsburgh. Can't wait to see it. It's going to be a great family film for everybody.
Do you think that they would make like Babe remake, except it would be with the Sea Eagle in Pittsburgh?
Yes. The Steel City Sea Eagle.
Is that kind of what Babe in the Big City was about, or a lost pig?
Was he lost in the city? I thought it was he just like skateboarded around the city and won a competition. Didn't he play a sport? I don't know. I get my animal movies mixed up.
No pigs were playing sports. I promise you that.
Well, they are this week against Ole Miss, brother, and you better be watching out. Suey!
Oh, can't wait for that one.
All right. Well, tell everybody what they can do in the meantime before they join us next week.
Just hail to Pitt, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Follow us at H2P Show, and we will be back next week on your favorite podcast platform. Tell your friends that are Pitt fans about the show. We'll see you next week. Hail to Pitt.